Here we go. Don't say anything too loud.
Good afternoon. I don't hear any bells jingling, so we know that no angels are getting their wings. Oh, there we go. There we go. It is December, isn't it? Yeah, this is wonderful. Well, welcome. We're starting a minute early because some of you might be hungry at 4.
Just leave, Bob.
We'll just leave, yeah. That's about when the jokes come out, right? Yeah, I just leave. Today we're going to be talking about 3 major topics. One is, we've been talking about the department heads because they're so much fun to talk about. We're going to talk about the 2023 budget plan and giving you more detail than you want. We'll work at keeping awake during that part. And then we'll be talking about some selected December events because there's always so much going on this month, and it's really fun. So we'll go to the organizational chart. There we are. This should be no surprise to you. You've seen this before. The parts that are left off this is the board, them, yeah. And so I report directly to the board, of course. Then we have Lindsay, who reports to me, and Ryan Turner, who reports to me. And then we have David Newton, who reports to me, and actually he reports to higher powers. And then Teresa Watkins reports to me. I'd like to invite Shannon, Amy, and Legree up front. There we go. And I asked them all to prepare 30-minute speeches, but they said, maybe 30 seconds. So, and again, if you look at the organizational chart, we're starting on the right side going left, just because it sounded like fun. But I think most of you know these folks, but I wanted them to spend just a minute just to remind you who they are in case you don't. So I'll turn it over to Anna.
Thank you so much. I'm Shannon Liddick. I'm the Resident Health Services Director. My claim to Rolling Green is I've been here 12 years. I started as a CNA in our skilled nursing area and worked my way up. So it's a joy to be here. My job is to keep you independent with any resources to do so, whether it be therapy, caregivers. If the time comes and we need to talk about a higher level of care, I have that hard conversation with you and your family and help make that transition as painless as possible. I also oversee our home care division, our medical transportation, and our clinic.
You don't have anything to do.
Yeah, nobody knows Amy.
Uh-oh.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay, hey everybody, I am Amy Abercrombie. You probably hear my voice lots of times on the one call now. I am the Community Wellness Director, which means I am over all the activities as well as the wellness program that is the Wellness Center and the exercise programs. I have also been here 12 years and worked my way from a manager to now a department head. So I'm very happy about that. And one thing I would like to ask all of you is that if you're interested in having input in any of the activities or trips that go on here, I'd like to invite y'all to come to our resident activity committee. That meets the 4th Monday of the month, except for December, because that's on the 26th. But we meet at 2:30 in this room. And that's just a way that you can have a voice in what we do here. Okay? You can always call me anytime, but that's a meeting that, you can talk to each other and hear what's going on. Thank you.
Hello, I am Legree Shemsky, Director of Nursing. I am over the Health Center, the Rehab Center, the Assisted Living Cedars, and Memory Care Evergreen Place. So when you have the difficult conversation with Shannon, and she and I start talking, and then you come and live with me. I'm the newbie out of those two. I've been here since May of 2018. I've worked in 3 different communities here in Greenville, and I've been doing long-term care since 2005. My office is at the entrance of Evergreen Place, so if you ever need anything or have any questions, that's where I am. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. This is a very, very dynamic campus, and I think you already know that, but just to see and get to hear from some of the people that are responsible for the day-to-day things that go on, it's just, we really appreciate it. So thank you. And to stand on stage with 2 RNs and an activity person extraordinaire was just, it's my honor, so thank you, ladies. Okay, well, we'll go into the exciting stuff.
Fast forward.
Fast forward. Well, you know, I was talking with a group of residents the other day, and some of them said, well, you know, Bob, you really haven't shared what the plans for 2023 are. And, you know, my first thought was, well, I hope to make it to 2023.
Yeah.
And we are, we're gonna be there. We do have a lot of plans and some exciting ones as well. And so I wanted to go through that briefly and show you actually some of the numbers of the budget. And for those of you who love numbers, great. Those of you who don't, sorry. The first thing in terms of our budget, and by the way, this has been reviewed by the Resident Financial Advisory Committee, and they abused it. They abused it. They abused me. No. We reviewed it. Oh my, how Freud here. We reviewed it together in mid-October before the budget was finalized, and so so these are a few assumptions, and again, this is very high level. The actual budget itself, the line items is about 2,300 lines long. And so there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. But so these are the real high level assumptions and some things that you will see and you'll experience in the coming year. First of all, many of you know that last December we closed rehab down. We were still doing rehab services because we still had the therapy here, but we closed that area of the building. And the reason was we couldn't get staff. We're still short staffed. We still need a number of people, but we're doing much better. And so in August, we opened up the first 9 beds back into that rehab area. And just this week, we opened up the next 9. And that leaves only about 3 beds. And so we are beginning to fill those beds and work on that. And one of the most significant things for you to understand is that in terms of finance, I should have warned you. No, I shouldn't have. In terms of finance, Rolling Green has several, yeah, see what happens when I get excited about numbers? Rolling Green has several sources of revenue. Of course, your monthly fees and entry fees, then the monthly fees for the assisted living in Evergreen Place and healthcare. We also have contract with Medicare and a variety of insurance companies. And the revenue for the rehab area for Medicare, it is very significant in terms of how it affects Rolling Green Village. And the best way I can describe it is at Clemson, there's a 96-pound ball on a 36-foot wire, and it swings back and forth as a pendulum. I think it's in the engineering building. And it swings back and forth, right? So there's a question, why doesn't the building lean back and forth when that huge ball swings back and forth? There's your math question for the day, or engineering question. The reason is because there's enough mass of the building around it so that it doesn't pull it.
Yep.
Okay, if Medicare and insurance payments are that 96-pound ball, we don't have quite enough mass around it, and so our financials swing back and forth based on how we're doing in the rehab area. So this has been a tough year financially. We're not making budget, but we still are cash flowing, and we have a positive bottom line, but we're not making budget. So it's a significant thing for you, for potential for care, for rehab, but also in terms of how we're doing financially. And so it has an effect. So some other things, as most of you know, I plan to retire May 31st. Some people have threatened me, but I don't know if that's good or bad, but we expect to have an announcement from the board January, February. So that'll be coming, and they've been interviewing and talking with people and so on. And they're going through a very deliberate and careful process. They want the right person for this job at Rolling Green. So they're being very thoughtful about how they're moving forward. Starting, is it December 13th? We are expanding services in the clinic. Shannon didn't have enough to do. Right. For a couple of years, we've been working with Prisma to get advanced practice nurse practitioners in the clinic for at least on a part-time basis. And so that will begin on December 13th. And we really had actually nailed all this down 2 years ago, and then that thing called COVID happened, and Prisma said, and everybody was hanging on to the nurse practitioners and doctors they had. So at long last, we have a great relationship with them. The person who is the medical director over that program was here last month, Dr. Terrio, and she and her staff. There will be a nurse practitioner. Her name is Asha, and I've not met her yet, but have you met her? Yeah, and I've heard she's really, really awesome. So, and her services will be, she can provide primary care. So we have some new people here from another town or something else, and they don't have a physician. So she can provide those services and then access the services to Prisma or Bon Secours as appropriate. And also, she'll be able to be available for some urgent care and some of those things. And that stuff, of course, the payment for her services will come through Prisma, or well, the payment won't, that's for sure. But the billing will be handled through Prisma and through Medicare, and that we don't do medical billing here, we just do for long-term care. So Prisma will be handling all the billing for that. So now you know. But that's a project, and actually in a resident survey, not this past one, but the one before that, that was a major question. You know, when are we going to get physician services on campus available for you? And so we actually started working on it back then. Some other exciting things. We are going to get national certification training for all of our managers, including myself. And we know that this training has been demonstrated to reduce employee turnover and increase employee satisfaction. And so we're very serious about that. We just completed an employee survey. The results were good, but we think we can do better. And so we're getting a training system, and it's through the Society for Human Resource Managers. And it's a big deal. It is a professional certification that we will all receive. And it takes us about 3 months to get. That's because I read slow. We have a telemedicine pilot going on right now, and it's been going on for about a year. About 8 months. It hasn't been real successful yet, but we're hoping to expand that to independent living, and that's something that Shannon and I need to talk about more as we go along. But we think that there's some opportunities that can provide additional help and services. In addition to that, Prisma is bringing telemedicine. So, but this is something different from that. It's telemedicine on steroids. It could be really, really amazing for us.
What is that?
Telemedicine. Some of you have talked to a physician over a computer, right? And that's really telemedicine. If you haven't, Prisma will bring that, but we have that capacity. This system has that, but has a whole lot more added to it to make it even more powerful. So you'll hear more about that later. And then you've all heard about artificial intelligence. That is not talking about the intelligence of an executive director. We were just discussing how expensive brains for executive directors are, and they're almost priceless, and it's because they're so little used. Artificial intelligence will help us dig deeper into our healthcare systems in the healthcare areas, and when we're providing care and services for each individual, there are a lot of different pieces of information that go into that. And our nursing staff is very good at teasing out what's important. The artificial intelligence will use the history that's in the files and the information to help us anticipate when there's an illness and to avoid hospitalization and those kinds of things. And it will help us focus even more. And so it improves quality and those kinds of things. And that's something that we're still exploring, but I think that we're gonna find some good answers this next year. Other things, these are more, those are operational. You don't see that AI thing, it's out in the cloud somewhere. You know where the cloud is, right? Yeah, it's somewhere in Phoenix, I think. We have, true. There's these, they call them server farms, they put them underground and air condition them, oh well. Capital projects, those are things that you can see. So we have several things that we're really excited about. One is we're anticipating the purchase of a trolley for on-campus transportation, and it'll be scheduled transportation, and Amy and her team will be working with that. So we had an experience not long ago where we actually did some scheduled transportation. It was quickly put together, but it worked really well, and so we're excited about this. And Amy, piece of cake. Amy's, only got 15 hours a day here. We also are going to be getting a lift for the small bus, and that's going to give a little bit more access to our residents for services and for events and those kinds of things. So we're excited about that. We're looking at doing some outdoor amenities, and I want to talk about this a little bit more. One of the strengths of Rolling Green Village is just we have an incredible campus, don't we? The lakes and fish and walking paths and so on. We really see a need and a desire among you to improve access to additional things. And so things like shuffleboard and bocce ball, those are very popular. And pickleball, we have an active pickleball group here. We'd love to replace the gazebo in the middle of the courtyard in the middle of the A3 apartments. It needs to be replaced, and we'd love to expand that patio area so that it'd be more usable for residents. So those are some of the projects that we've got online for next year. Now, we have those in the capital budget, kind of at your basic, this is your shuffleboard court. If you want additional services or additional stuff with it, we're probably gonna need to raise some funds. And so I'm looking back at Jane, and she's gonna help us with that. And actually, all of these things are funded through our cash. So as we have cash, we do them. So if you desire to put in a pickleball court and would like to give us the money for that, we would happily welcome that. But more important, it would actually accelerate the process by which we can do that. And I'm interested in that because I see the need. And really, we want to have more and more reasons for people to get outside, meet each other, have fun, do things together. And the fund development part really helps us do that. So we're excited about that. We have some other things on our list as funding permits. And so we've got, this isn't the only list. This is more than a Christmas list because Santa we plan on developing or delivering, but these are some of the things to look forward to. Some other exciting things, the fire panels in the A through E apartments, it's about time to replace them. So we're going to begin working on that project, and it's probably a 2-year project, if not longer. But that will get us up to the latest and best in fire protection and safety. The system works, but there are new options that can make it work even better. So we're planning on beginning that process, and it will be a long process. So just anticipate that. Lakeside sidewalk, there's a sidewalk along Hoke Smith that needs to be replaced. It's only about 8 inches below below the roadway and, 14 inches above the water. But we want to be working on that as well as along Lakeside, that the sidewalk is very narrow and it needs to be replaced. The bank along the lake needs to be strengthened, and there's some additional sidewalk and some walls and some other things, some other work that needs to go on there, including a bridge and that kind of stuff. So we want to begin that process. We've been watching that for a while. We expect to refurbish about 27 apartments. We're going to be updating some of the lobby furniture in the A through E buildings as well as the healthcare. Not all of it, but some of it. And probably the most exciting thing is we're going to be putting in drain lines behind the cottages. Yeah, it's kind of a mess back there, and when you do a new construction, you find some things afterwards that maybe should be done differently, and so we're having to do some corrections. Nobody did anything wrong, but I know that they were trying to put that stuff in when it was wet, so there were some problems with that, and so it's got some problems back there, and so we're going to fix that. Any questions about those? Okay, now now we're gonna see what kind of endurance you have. Oh, yes, Al, I'm sorry.
You were, last year, I remember you were gonna put in some shrubbery around the lakes and with the sidewalks. Whatever happened to that?
That's great. And the question is, what about shrubbery around the lakes and so on? About 2 years ago, we had a landscape architect help us design and locate where some of these physical amenities would go. And so we were getting the base level of amenities, and the shrubs and those kinds of things will be coming later as we have the funds. And that's one of those areas where the fund development can really help us, frankly. And the reason for shrubs around the lake is not to hide the lake, but rather to hide the grass from the geese. Geese apparently like to see their feet. Who knew? But when you have shrubs and some of those things around the lake, they tend not to come onto your yard. And I also know that that's not a perfect solution, but there's probably 2 or 3 things. Well, we're trying 2 or 3 things that we hope is going to help with the goose control. Please.
I got a good idea for goose control.
Yes, sir.
Goose on the menu in the dining room. Once a
Goose on the menu. Yeah, there we go.
week. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a treat.
That would be a treat, yeah. Well, it's Christmas, time for the Christmas goose. Yeah, you'll notice there aren't any geese right there. That's what I've been talking to them. Good. Well, let's go into some of the numbers, and I'm not going to go into these in great detail. This presentation will be available on the portal, as we've done in the last few months, and available for you. These numbers may be a little small for you to read, and that's not because they're small numbers. The total revenue the total operating revenue that we anticipate for next year is just shy of $24 million. It's a lot of money, and that's that includes all the revenue sources and our best estimate in terms of occupancy and just our sources of revenue. Things like meal tickets and other services that we provide, transportation and so on, that is revenue. It's all included in there. So it's about $24 million, about $2 million a month. Our expenses, we anticipate around $21,600,000. And that includes everything that we have planned, those capital items and those kinds of things. We'll talk about that in just a minute. That means on the net operating income, it would be $2.2 million. Wow, we'll be rolling in the cash, but wait, there's more. All right. How many of you are accountants? Okay, good. I can lie. I mean, I can. No, I'm sorry. In accounting, there's 2 kinds of expenses and income. One is the operating, and that's we provide a service and we get payment for that, right? That's the operating revenue. There's other revenue, such as gift revenue. interest, those kinds of things. That's non-operating income, because apparently we don't do anything for that. Yeah, right. So below the line are things like debt. Oh, that. Yeah, because debt is not an operating expense. I don't know why. That's why I was gonna, put an accountant to task on that. But let's go to the next. There we are. Yeah. Okay. Our field is, well, let me say it this way. When I was in graduate school, my roommate was in the School of Business at that wonderful university. I have to talk about the blue and gold a little bit. And he used to tell me how easy my classes were. And I appreciated that because he wasn't in them. But we were actually taking the same classes. His were all business and mine were all healthcare business. And the reason they were different is because the accounting and the way the accountants count dollars and services is different than they do in the normal business world. It's a specialized area, okay? So in this specialized area, you know that we have people who move to higher levels of care and move out and pass away and so on. And so when we turn over an apartment or a cottage, we receive some money. We also refund a good portion of that to the person who left. And when we receive that money, so we do have a net, and it's at least 20%, and there's a little bit more. That net is called net attrition. That's what we have left over after a turnover. And we normally have 20, 25 apartments and cottages turnover a year. And that's a normal, actually that's a little lower than normal for an organization our size. And so we anticipate about $877, almost $900,000 of net attrition. Okay, yeah, that's a lot of cash. Well, what about that 2.2 million plus that 900,000? You're really rolling in the cash, Benson. But wait, we have debt, principal, and interest, about $2.5 million. Oh, that, and that comes out of that. Plus, we need to set aside reserves for replacement. That's because we do have to replace carpet occasionally and refurb apartments and those kinds of things. So we set money aside for that. After the capital projects and after debt is paid, and after we set aside some for reserves, we do have positive cash flow. And depending on if you're an accountant or not, I can give you those numbers, and you can look at the cash flow and see what that is. But it is positive cash flow, and that's the important thing. This kind of business in healthcare actually tends to run off of cash flow. And what is cash flow? That's the cash that comes in versus that goes out, and you manage that. And so we manage that very, very closely. And so what this means is that we have enough revenue, operating revenue, to pay for our operating expenses plus the other expected expenses that we have next year. Does that make sense? And there still needs to be a little bit left over after that, because you want to get through the next year, right? And that's the cash flow for the next year. So that's how this works. So now you've learned more about accounting and healthcare than you ever wanted to know. And sometime we'll go through Medicare accounting, and it'll be dazzling. Any questions about that?
Here we go.
Oh, please, yes.
So how much you got numbers up there, everything is set for positive cash flow? How much is that?
Positive cash flow, I'm trying to remember. I did not look that up.
You can get back.
I'm gonna have to get back with you on that one. That's a really good question, and I should have looked that up.
Well, you
Thank you.
got numbers up there except, I'll accept that one.
Yep, I do.
Are you trying to hide that one?
Nope. No. Yeah, positive cash flow moving through. I'm gonna have to look that up. Can I bring that up? Can I bring that back next month for another exciting presentation on budget?
I'm gonna remember about as long as I walk through the door.
Yeah, if Lindsay can help me remember that, we'll bring that. But again, the important thing is that the cash flow is positive. And of course, as a not-for-profit, every dollar that comes in either as operating or non-operating revenue goes to Rolling Green Village. We don't have, people who've invested in Rolling Green, to receive a return on our business, in that sense. We're not like business investors. So, I do wanna talk about something else. And this is something that's been going on for a couple months, and I think it will not be a surprise to many of you. For a long time, we've needed to replace our assisted living. Yes. And so, the board sanctioned a study to help us do that. And, it has caused us to look at the master plan for Rolling Green Village. And the reason is because there's not a whole lot of space to shoehorn assisted living in. There's a little bit. And we've figured out how to use that, or the land planners have figured out how to use that. But the number of additional units that they would create would only be maybe 4. Yeah. And it could net add another 15 on top of that. And there's some decisions that have to be made, whether or not we reconfigure Cedars the building into 1-bedroom apartments, or not, if it makes sense. So the issue that it creates, though, is the building will be 1-bedroom apartments primarily, on 2 floors. It has to be 2 floors, which we don't want, but it's because of the space we have. But it doesn't create enough new revenue to pay the full debt for that. Now, those of you who've been around for a while may remember this discussion before. When was that? It was when we wanted to replace this as a dining room. We didn't have enough new revenue to replace this dining room. And so we designed a dining room and a building around it. But also we then also realized we needed to have apartments and cottages to help carry the cost. And that's frankly how we did that. Right now, residents who've been with us for a number of years, you're helping pay the operating costs for those buildings. But the debt is primarily covered through the expansion itself. We're looking at possibly needing to do that again. So there's a possibility of an additional apartment building. Possibility, please read my lips. Possibility of apartments and cottages and maybe some other alternatives. It is being considered. The board has not seen the final numbers. They have not seen the feasibility report. The feasibility study is expected later, next week. And then the board will consider it. Now, if they make a decision to move forward, you wouldn't see, other than testing ground, you probably wouldn't see any work out there for 2 years. Okay. If they don't say yes, it may be sometime later or may not be at all. So there's a lot of questions. And the board really needs a chance to really review it and look at it very closely. But if I come back to you with a board decision, I don't want you to be surprised that yes, it is being considered for additional apartments and cottages. And again, maybe some of you have seen the plans and you've kind of seen a draft area where a new apartment building would go, and that's where it would be. And it would be similar to our F apartment building now. Not the same, but similar. And again, if, I can't underscore that enough, but I just don't want you to be surprised. Should this go forward, there's gonna be more information for you. It's a big project. Couple things I do know about the project. In the feasibility study, we're using extremely conservative assumptions. And that's because I'd like to have a program that when it's constructed and built, that we can't miss the numbers. And I learned that from the first project I built, and back when I had hair. So, again, I just want you to be aware there is a feasibility study going on. We're being very open about it. If it happens, it could be a pretty large project with assisted living and apartments and so on. And again, there are a lot of hoops that have to be jumped through before we even get to the decision, so no surprises down the road, okay? And we'll bring more information to you as I have it, okay? Totally unrelated, we're looking at considering, note the word considering, it's not there, but it's, put it in parentheses in your mind, we're considering a charge for no-shows on bus trips.
Do it.
We've had, people sign up, and then the challenge is that sometimes people are sick or they're in the hospital and we don't know, or they haven't told us that they're in the hospital or something like that. And so how do we charge when they've been taken out by the ambulance the night before, kind of thing. So we're considering it, we're trying to figure out how it might happen. The idea is we have people who sign up for things and then just don't show. And then people who wanna go, it's, they have to make a decision, are they gonna risk waiting for the bus, or are they just gonna take their car? And so we're trying to address that. So just
And remember, we're old.
remember, we're old. And we're not as old as we're going to be. You know, something I'm really impressed with is we got through the budget and I only saw 4 or 5 of you sleeping, so I just really appreciate that. Let's see, Amy, would you like to, I'd like to invite Amy up. She knows this schedule so well. And so we've got some selected things on here, but she's got more, and she also has the information, so Amy?
I'm gonna use this because I feel more comfortable using this. That seems too formal. So anyway, we're gonna talk about some of the events. Bob has highlighted a few. I have my highlights here. So there's some additional things I'd like to talk about. So on Saturday, we have the First Presbyterian Christmas concert. We have 2 buses going. You do have to have tickets for that. We put the website online for you to purchase those tickets. I think it is sold out. If anybody can't go, let me know and I'll try to, find someone to pay you for your ticket so that they can go. Because I think we had about 20 something on the wait list for that. On the 13th, we have Bob Jones University Trombone Choir. They will be in here. I know everyone has enjoyed for the past 2 days. We had Tuesday, we had the trumpet choir, and then today we had the tuba and euphonium. I don't know how to say it. Euphonium choir, and they were wonderful. If anybody saw them today, so that'll be on Tuesday in here 1:30. On the 15th, we have the chorale coming to do their Christmas concert. Right after that is also the line dancers are gonna just do a little Christmas performance for y'all. So the chorale's been working really hard. I know you probably heard, some of y'all maybe heard them practicing over here, but you don't wanna miss that. On the 16th, we have the employee Christmas party. I know some of you will be there handing out the checks. And all of y'all are involved in that because you have given to that, and we really appreciate that. I know the staff really look forward to that, and it really helps a lot of them at Christmas. So we really appreciate that. Thank you. And I did put out a 1 call today, and I did tell everyone of the deadline is the 10th. So if anybody hasn't given for that, you would like to, then the 10th is the deadline. Bob wanted me to mention that. Beth. On the 17th, we have Southside Christian School Christmas carolers. They're going to come in the Commons entrance lobby, and they will be doing some Christmas caroling. So they'll be out there at the Commons. On the 19th, we have Broadway and Beyond Christmas special. They are the people who did the Phantom of the Opera. Now, it's not going to be the whole group. It will be Lori that plays the piano and Beth who sings. And they'll be doing their Christmas special, and it will be in here. And then on the 28th, we have Dinner Club. Every month we try to have what we call Dinner Club. We started that because when the dining room wasn't open for supper, like at a regular time, we wanted to try to give you the option to go out and have dinner at a regular time. So we started Dinner Club. We try to take 2 buses if we can. A lot of places do not like to take a large group. This time we'll be going to Saskatoon's. It's a really great place. They have really great service and really great food. So I think it probably is full. But what I always tell people is that if you want to go to something, and like Bob was talking about, you know, charging for people who don't show up, if you really would like to go something, go ahead and sign up, because a lot of times people do cancel, and you know, we're trying to hunt for people to fill up the buses at the last minute. So go ahead and sign up. If you can't go that time, sometimes we will schedule another trip. So we have done an additional dinner club to the same place a couple days later if we have a lot of interest for that. A few other things that are not up here. Tomorrow and here at 11:30, St. Mary's Catholic School students will come and perform. It's going to be their strings choir, their show choir, and I think their concert band. So they will be here tomorrow. He told me they would probably just perform about 30 minutes. So they must not have too many, too many things to play, but they will be here. So come out and support them.
What time?
That's at 11:30. And then on Saturday we have David and Lisa Kaiser of the Greenville Symphony. They were trying to come out every other Saturday and didn't work out, but they have students who come here and perform for us. They play the piano. They also sing. They're wonderful. They will be here on Saturday at 2 o'clock. So please make sure you come to that. You don't want to miss that. Joe Julian, one of our own residents, he is going to play for us on Monday. Adagio 345, they will be here on December 15th. Some people have asked me about that, and this is the last one I'm going to talk about. They played for the Valentine's Day party that we had in the dining room. They were in the piano lounge. Wonderful. It was a group of about 4 men. They played, I think they had a keyboard. I think some might have played the guitar. I can't even remember what all they played. But it was pretty much all instrumental, but they were great. So you don't want to miss them either. And that'll be in the dining room or piano lounge from 5 to 7 on December the 15th. So we have a lot of stuff going on. There's other things that are happening. If you look on this page, I can't remember what number it is for this week's highlights, but it looks like this, and it says upcoming Christmas events at RGV. We tried to make it really easy for you to see and be able to read. Okay.
Amy?
Yes.
Textile Heritage Band.
Oh yes. Well, and they're all on here. So we have the Happy Strummers on the 16th. They'll be in here at 2. We have the Greenville Textile Heritage Band on December 17th at 3. So there's all kinds of stuff, but all of it is here.
Amy,
Yes.
can I just stress that on the 12th, 16th, the employee Christmas party, as much as we might like to be a part of it, the general public, being us, that's not for us.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we just wanted to mention it just to say that it was happening,
Right.
and some of the residents will be there to hand out
Well, yeah,
checks and
that's-
things like that.
Yeah, before COVID,
Right.
it's going back to that plan.
Right.
So it's not open, it's not everybody comes.
Right.
Right.
Having known how you did that in the old days,
DC, before
are you
COVID.
gonna be able to do the same thing where the HOAs give out the checks and the secretary and the treasurer and the president get involved?
Yeah, I believe, the question is, are we gonna hand out the checks as in days before COVID?
That's right.
Those long days ago.
The old days.
I believe that is the case. The Resident Association and Bob Torres is working with that and with others.
Good.
So I believe, and that's how I believe it's gonna be handled this year.
Been that way in the past, when you
Yeah.
could do it.
Yeah,
Interrupted
when we
that,
could
so.
do it. And, yeah, Amy's right. The money does not go to us managers. It goes to our frontline staff. And it is deeply appreciated. And, I'm always touched at the amounts. The final amount isn't in because it's not the 10th yet, but I'm always touched at how much and how generous you are, to our staff. And we thank you deeply for that. Let's see. 2 cannibals were eating a clown, and one turned to the other and said, does this taste funny to you? Oh boy. Yeah, fast forward. Okay, dining room holiday hours. Yeah, on the 16th, there will be a continental breakfast on December 16th. There will be lunch, but the lunchroom is gonna close a little bit early. And with the last reservation at 12:30, that's because they need to set up. The party for the staff begins at 1:30, and it'll be in those dining areas. And then the evening hours for meals the regular evening hours. On Christmas Day, the hours will be from 11 to 2, and that's so staff can have their Christmas as well. And there will not be continental breakfast or bistro that morning. And then on New Year's Day, there will be a continental breakfast and regular dining hours, New Year's Day, so it's just the normal day, for those of you in recovery mode. You know that I worked in Oklahoma for a while, right? Some of you know that, and so I can say this. After having dug to a depth of 10 feet last year, New York scientists found traces of copper wire dating back 100 years. They came to the conclusion that their ancestors already had a telephone network more than 100 years ago. Not to be outdone by those Easterners, in the weeks that followed, a California archaeologist dug to a depth of 20 feet, and shortly there was a story in the LA Times that read, California archaeologists finding traces of 200-year-old copper wire. They've concluded that their ancestors already had advanced high-tech telecommunications 100 years earlier than the New Yorkers. 1 week later, the Daily Oklahoman, a local newspaper in Oklahoma, reported the following. After digging as deep as 300 feet in his pasture near Mustang, Oklahoma, Bubba Mitchell, a self-taught archaeologist, reported he found absolutely nothing. Bubba has therefore concluded that 300 years ago, Oklahoma had already gone wireless. There you go. That's as good as last. I tell my wife, monkey in a typewriter. You know that story. Eventually, you get a monkey in a typewriter, and you get a line of Shakespeare. What questions do you have for me today? We have a few minutes. Yes, please.
Any possibility of maid service to the patio homes?
Any possibility of housekeeping service to the patio homes?
Yes.
Yes. I don't have a date yet, but we are planning to reinstate that in this coming year, and it is entirely staff dependent. And if we can't get staff, then we're gonna look at another alternative. Great question. Yeah, we want everything going. We really do. Please.
I'm getting concerned about power supply because of all the craziness with shooting up the substations.
Mm-hmm.
And in the patio homes, we have nothing but electric. Can we get solar panels? Are we allowed to do that?
Let's see, the question is concerns about the power supply, and if they can get solar cells on the rooftops. That really is an HOA matter. My understanding is the HOAs have not done that, but you'd need to ask your HOA about that.
What about gas?
What about gas? Excuse me. I couldn't resist. Where do I go from there? I would. We do have a gas line on campus. I don't know that it's sized appropriately for the patio. I'm sorry, we're having too much fun over here. Yeah, quit one. Yeah, I don't think that there's a plan well, I know that there's not a plan in place for adding that kind of line on campus.
Gas could be sanitized as well as electric.
Yeah, any more gas, gas is going up like electric.
Be nice to have options.
Help me out, somebody ask another question. There we go. Yes, the question is, in the garden apartments, courtyard, we're looking at adding, and we're creating some space so that people can add, little patios. And we have 7 of them that are planned, and we know that there are going to be more. And those are paid for under the same 80% return of capital agreement. And when will they be put in? I don't have a date for you. We want to get that done shortly, though. We've moved some bushes, we've moved the air conditioning units, we've made sure that the low voltage and power lines as appropriate, and the irrigation lines either have been moved or are being moved, but I don't have a date for you. But we know what contractor we're going to use. So that's not a very satisfying answer, but it's, but I don't have a date for you. But let's put that on for next month, and if it hasn't started then, or by then we'll know, or we should have a date. Okay. Yeah. Lynn.
Exactly, where is this?
You know the A through E apartments?
That's what I thought.
And in the courtyard of the A through E apartments, and people do not have patios. And it's not just a patio, it's a patio and a door to the patio. I just thought I'd better mention that. And so, and the residents who are moving into those, or in those areas, are paying for those. Please, yes.
Has there ever been a study on feasibility of a solar field?
Has there been a study on the feasibility of a solar field? There has not been one recently. Several years ago, when prior to the construction of the commons, we looked at that pretty seriously. We didn't put a lot of money into it, but we looked at it and talked to some people, and it was not feasible at that time. The solar arrays are helpful, but we'd have to have a number of acres of solar arrays in order to do that, and it didn't make sense at that time. Yeah, I had hoped to have solar arrays on top of the commons, frankly, but no, we left that so that people can sunbathe up there. I'm sorry.
It's getting worse.
It's getting worse at the end of the day. You know how the energy starts at the day. And what other questions do you have?
Is there any maintenance scheduled for the balconies?
Is there maintenance scheduled for the balconies? What kind of maintenance? In the F building, you mean, or?
E-building.
In the E building? I don't know that, so we'll have to get back to you on that. Yeah, the easy questions you can ask me, the hard ones, ask Ryan. Yeah, so we're gonna have to get back with you. These are really good questions. Good questions. Yeah, and yeah, Skip has been unavailable for the last couple days, so. If there are no other questions, let me close with prayer. Father, we are thankful that we can be community together. We know that living with others is not as simple as it is with living in our own home, separate from other people, but it has so many advantages, and it is so good for us. We thank you for this place. We thank you for these people, for this time. And Lord, especially, we are grateful for your Son, in whose name we pray. Amen. Thank you all. Have a good day. Merry Christmas. Fröhliche Weihnachten. Well, thank you.
I know how much
Waving at me through the window.
So sweet.
Well,
Good.